All right, so getting started with our interface. Now, a lot of you might be very comfortable with the interface. Some of you may not. I've heard from a lot of users already. So we're going to do kind of a quick tour of the interface so that we can get right into our projects. Now, one thing I like about this interface is that it reminds me very much of a lot of the programs I've used over the years, and it's interesting that it seems like it's a combination of all of them. It feels a little bit of Maya, it feels a little bit of Lightwave, and even reminds me of some of the XSI when I used to use that more on a regular basis. But what I like is that it's also its own unique interface, and I like the way many of these things work. For instance, across the top, we've got our selection tools, different types of selections, our move tools, scale, rotate, things like that. Here we have almost, if you consider it just a little history stack, so if you used a tool that was buried in one of the menus, we can often get to it easily right in this little history stack. Axis control, okay, instant rendering right in your viewport, which is really nice. Variations of rendering, rendering region, for instance, to a picture viewer, different render views. It's all accessible right there. And of course, you've got your render options, which we'll cover a little bit later in the course. Now, one thing I found interesting about Cinema 4D is that it works with parametric primitives before it works with polygonal images, meaning that all of these primitives right here are parametric, meaning that we can adjust these parameters at any point until such time that we make it a polygonal object, and that's this little icon up here. So we're going to do that often, and it might actually be something you forget. I know I've done some training on Cinema 4D with some people, and myself included, that as we start to try and select polygons, for instance, which is this little guy, you can't do that until you make it a polygonal object. And then you can actually go ahead, choose your selection, and select some polygons and edit and adjust as you want. Okay, but notice that as soon as we make that, those size and variations are gone from our attributes manager. All right, so we'll get to that as we start doing some modeling and understanding how the parametric works. Across the top here also is some other things such as curves. You've got NURBs, which we will apply. Different types of arrays we can put in, our lights, okay, other types of deformers, which are very cool. So many different things we can use throughout the course, as well as particles. All right, if you ever have a question, you can choose your little help tool, select a tool, and click on it as well. And I want to see if I have enough space here. Yeah. We made these HD resolutions so we'd have enough screen size to show you all the tools. The last thing I'd want is for you to have a little tiny window like this, and then we can't really see everything. So we're doing this a little bit bigger, so it is nice and clear for you to see everything we're doing. Okay. Now, from here, these are your managers. Okay. And in these managers, you can see here's the oil tank we just added up with this awesome design. And we can see the structure manager. Now, if I went back, if I undid a couple of times, and I went back to a parametric object, notice that that structure is gone. Okay. That structure manager then appears when you have a polygonal object. Okay, and it allows you to control various points. So I can come in here and type different things, and it works actually pretty well. If I just take this guy out of the way here for a minute, and we do something kind of flat, or maybe we choose just one of these points here, you can edit these points right here with the structure manager. Literally change the structure of various points. Okay, I find this works really well on flat primitives, for instance. You know, if you have a plane, or if you have even just a flat polygon like that, you make it a polygonal object, and you can see here that if I start changing some of the points, right away I can very easily just edit those points, not even having to drag on them. I can just do it that way. Now, I'm more visual than a lot of people, so that might mean for me not to use the structure managers, but it's there if you want it. Okay. With all of these panels, you can undock. If you click right on the top left corner, you can undock, make them full screen, make them main window. You can lock the layout and so on, rename, make different tabs. You can actually click and drag them to other areas. You can undock it again so it floats around, move it off screen, or if you have dual monitors, for instance, often a great way to work, or just stick it right back in there, whichever you like. And the same goes for many of these panels as well. So you could take the animation panel, just grab that top handle there, click and drag it off, drag it right there, and now I've got all my animation tools. So you might see, if you've looked around the internet, if you've done any other kind of training with Cinema 4D, you might see completely different interfaces. I see it quite a bit. We're going to keep this as default as possible so that we're all on the same page. And of course, if I want to just control click, I can collapse that. And if I mouse over, I'll see that there's a palette in there, and I can just click to open it. Okay, so very nice way to work. Very, very flexible interface. We'll hit close all. We won't save anything. And if I want to get back to my interface, I can go to this little guy right here and just click on my standard interface. And let me just bring that back up, scale it down, and I'm back to square one. You can also see in here there's a number of other different setups, such as body paint and user menu. So if we want our own configurations, we could do that as well. Animation, modeling, and so on. But we're going to stick with a standard interface for the majority of this course. Okay, down here, of course, you've got your animation. We've got our timeline across the bottom. We got a material manager here that we can really do some fun, cool things with. Play and pause buttons, pretty self-explanatory. Here you've got some automatic keyframing options, objects for keyframing set selection, and so on. And your basic animation tools, turn on, off, rotation for record, and so on. Okay, so as we need these, we'll get more into each panel rather than try and describe them now and have you forget them when it comes time. Okay. The biggest things to know is that we're going to be working with these parametric objects up here quite a bit, as well as all these other shapes, the freehand splines and the NURBS. And we're going to be working with point mode, edge mode, polygonal mode, and then of course our different types of auto switch and tweak modes as well. Over here we've got just a few other little model tools. Here's an object access tool and our selection. So these are kind of the key areas we're going to be jumping back and forth with as we get on with the course. So quick overview of the interface, and I don't want to spend too much time on that. If we need to adjust something, we will as it goes on. But quickly, we want to show you that you can expand any one of these views just by clicking that. Each view has its rotation, its zoom, and of course its move, like that. But we'll be using keyboard equivalents as well. And within each of these panels, this is also important to note, you have different types of views with the camera, different display levels, shading, hidden lines, wireframes, and so on. Other types of filters. And what the filter is, it's what is visible within this view. So while a lot of programs get you into some preferences deep down buried in, you have to go to the OpenGL panels and tabs to see and turn things on. Here you can do it right within that view by hitting the filter. And here in the view, you can also change just if you want a 2-up, want a quad, and so on. Okay, so and within the edit, you can actually configure right there to show what's happening within that view, and just add that attribute manager. Okay, so very, very flexible, very easy to use. And with that said, let's move on to the next video, and we'll get some projects started.